Today's topic, control and coordination, a new chapter. Now see, in the previous chapter we have looked at all the life processes and we have come to know what is metabolism. All these life processes which are maintained in functioning of all the living organisms. So we started with how do we show various activities in the body, the complex activities of digestion, breathing, transportation. These all are covered, including excretion also. When we talk about these things, we say that we are alive because of the result of growth, because of the result of all these activities. Now coming to all the why and how questions. What does it mean? It means when we associate all the movements that we see around, we think about it, why it happened. Giving you an example, that we may think like that, why the food is digesting in our body and how is it getting digested. Then for those movements, we say yes, we have secretions called enzymes, we have certain juices in the body which will help in this process of digestion. Then if we look around, we say that yes, we are walking, we are moving, a cat is running. Clear? How and why? How is by the activity of our muscles. And why? Because we need to achieve that work. Clear? Same way, another example, that whenever you have to talk to your friends in the class, you do not talk loudly when the class is going on. What do you generally do? You go, you whisper rather than shouting. You check your movement clearly. Why? Because this all is in your brain, in your system. What? That I have to react according to the given situation. If I provide you any hot object, what will you do? You obviously, it's a dangerous situation, so you will respond to it wisely, right? Deciding in your brain how to touch it, that it may not hurt me. But if unknowingly you touch any hot object, what would be your reaction? How would you behave that time? So whether you are touching any hot object knowingly or unknowingly, there is one common thing which is going to happen, that your message has to travel to your central nervous system. Clear? Central nervous system. What is that message? That you are touching a hot object. What is a hot object here? It's a stimuli or stimulus. What is stimulus? It is not always present in the environment. Stimulus can be any internal or external factor which is intense enough to evoke a response in your body. Clear? So, if you touch a hot object, if a pin pricks your hand, and you are sitting in a classroom, you are talking to your friend, so accordingly you will monitor the situation, how you have to behave. You will give a reaction or response in related to the stimulus that is provided to you. Clear? So this is control and coordination that is done by the central nervous system. But only the central nervous system does it? No. There are hormones also which are involved in the process of control and coordination. So it is a dual network of brain, spinal cord that comes in the central nervous system along with the hormones which coordinate all the activities of human beings. May it be the reflex actions or may it be the knowing acts. Here we are starting with first how the information travels how from a stimulus information has to reach other parts of the body and how the reaction takes place in the body. Now we say that supposingly we touch a hot object, we know that it is something which is hot. So how do we detect that we are touching a hot object? In that sense, we receive information. Information is known as stimulus from the environment. And this stimulus from the environment is detected by the specialized tips of some nerve cells. What do we call these specialized tips? Dendrites. क्योंकि nerve cells के पास क्या होते हैं? Dendrites ही होती हैं. And these receptors are usually located where? In our sense organs. Which receptor? Where the information has to flow. Clear? These sense organs are our inner ear, the nose, the tongue, and the gustatory receptors. Gustatory for what? For taste. And olfactory for smell. Clear? So we say this information which is acquired at the dendritic tip. We have acquired some information. This is the dendritic tip of a nerve cell. What will it do? It will set off a chemical impulse, or it may react and create an electrical impulse. अब हमें इतना पता है कि this dendritic tip will automatically, after receiving the information, will send it to the nerve ending. We are familiar with this diagram since we have done in class 9 also, that the dendritic tip will receive the information and then information has to flow through the entire body of the neuron. Fine. And as soon as it flows to the entire body, it will be received at the nerve ending. Now, the chemical reaction, it can create an electrical impulse, and that impulse travels from the dendrite to the cell body to the axon and the end. This sets off an electrical chemical response. अब क्या होता है? Now the situation comes here. This can be in a tissue also, this can be in cells also, this can be in muscles also, or this portion or this area can be fused with post-dendritic neuron also. Here are two situations. If the nerve ending of a pre-neuron and the dendritic tip of a post-neuron has a gap in between, and if there is no gap, alright, so if there is gap in between, this gap is known as synapse. Then what will happen? This entire section को हम synapse बोल देते हैं because ये तो cleft होता है ना, pocket बन जाती है, तो इसको हम बोलते हैं cleft. This is the electrical message which is coming. ये वाला electrical message. Now it is reaching this nerve ending. I'm showing it here. Once it reach here, it will convert into a chemical message because this electrical message cannot cross the gap. So it will automatically transform into a chemical which is known as neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter. And here the neurotransmitter is acetyl coenzyme A. Okay. Now this neurotransmitter will automatically come, fuse with the membrane and release the content. Which content? The message. And automatically will be picked up by the receptor on the other side. This receptor will pick up the message, the chemical message that has come all along through the cleft and will transform into a vesicle once again. Then again this vesicle will transform itself into an electrical form and will be carried further. Right. Once again, electrical form of the message. This electrical form, on reaching the nerve ending, will transform into a chemical form containing neurotransmitter. This neurotransmitter, this vesicle, it will fuse with the membrane of the nerve ending, and receptors on the other side of the post-dendritic tip will receive the message carefully so that it may not leak into the cleft area, and further pass it on safely to the dendritic tip, which will be carried further, and the entire message is converted once again into an electrical form. Then when this chemical crosses the gap, similar electrical impulse will be generated in the dendrite of next neuron. Similar one. And delivery of such impulses from one cell to other cell will take place, or neuron to muscles or neuron to glands, anywhere will take place. If we say there is no gap or no cleft in between, this generally happens in the brain cells and in all the spinal cord cells, because where these neurons have to be highly active for their action. This electrical impulse simply crosses the gap and moves further like an electrical impulse only. There is no transformation of electrical impulse into chemical impulse. Alright. If, see, this kind of network or neuron takes place and this is working in our body, there is no surprise, children, that this electrical impulse or chemical impulse is working so effectively that I'm talking right now. I'm speaking something and you are listening and hopefully understanding as well, right? So generally what happens, this message travels so fast that I am speaking and you are listening. There is very less gap that the message is not carried properly. There are very rare chances. Otherwise, this message transmission is so effective that everything happens in a fraction of seconds. Clear? This is how the neuron helps in acquiring the information, then making it travel in the electrical form, then converting it into a chemical signal, and transmission further to the nearby cell, message, gland, or maybe a post neuron. Fine.